get guys coming in. I need this, I need this, I need this. Can you help me? I was like, first of all, what's your budget? Got $2,000. I'm like, okay, first of all, you don't need all that to start out. You need to start with the basic equipment. And the reason I tell them to do bare minimum on their equipment is because they need to put more money into. You can't have one without the other. If a guy just wants to go out and just do pressure washing and make the millions of dollars those YouTube guys are saying you can make, then you're going to have to. So I mentor quite a few new contractors, and I was there, especially being a female in the contracting industry. Pressure washing. I'd roll up to a job with my truck, and they're like, "Is anybody going to help you?" And I'm like, "No, I got this." So I do the job, and I hit a lot of roadblocks doing that, and just not able to ask the questions. There's more availability now than there was when I started washing, and hit the search bar and read it. But a lot of people just want that one-on-one connection, because on the search bar, you can read an answer, but if you have follow-up questions, you're just sitting there typing in the search bar all your questions, when you can just call a person and ask a question and discuss it in detail and get all the answers at one shot. So, if you have one basic question, hit the search bar, but my phone's always open. I think everybody's got my cell phone number. So, I'm always on my phone. But, I love the industry. I love helping. I do, the instruction across the country doing the industry paint issues. I'm sure you've seen that. And I just want to help contractors, and I'll never charge for my classes. I'll never, do a paid class on this. I won't go to an event that wants me to charge or will charge for my class. I won't do that. I believe that this is something contractors need in their life, this knowledge, so they don't ruin somebody's home and they don't have to pay to repaint. So, I'm just out there just to give my knowledge. I don't know everything. I'm not an expert in everything, but if I don't know it, I'll get an answer for you. I won't try and answer things I don't know. I'll say, well, I'm not sure about that. Let me get you an answer, because I'm not going to give wrong answers. I'm not setting people up to fail. And I think that's hard to find in this day and age.
Yeah, definitely. It's an amazing feeling knowing like what you're doing is actually like changing people's lives. So I was hoping we could kind of just do the same thing today.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, there are some instances where you need to take paid training, like, to learn how to rebuild a pump or something, that kind of training you need to pay for, because those instructors, that's different than what I do. My information is pretty much just more of a safety thing, to protect property protection, basically. It's you shouldn't have to pay for that. You shouldn't have to pay to learn how to protect not only yourself, your business, but your customers' property. I don't have nothing against paid training. There are instances where you need paid training, and there's great knowledgeable guys out there. So I just don't feel that what I am training should be paid, because I think everybody should have this knowledge. Everybody should, protect themselves and protect their customers' property. I do have, I've been washing for over 16 years. I ended up, I still go out every once in a while, but, I started the panhandle just because I had knee surgery, foot surgery, trigger finger surgery, shoulder surgery. And I'm like, okay, I want to stay in this industry without breaking my body. So, me being out there 5 days a week, and then I had an internal cleaning. So I was out there on the weekends. So I was doing 7 days a week for over 16 years. And I was like, okay, I need a little me time. So I just, we started Panhandle just for our local people and for us, because there was nobody around us for like 7 hours. And then, I started getting on social media, and I just grew so fast that it just blew me away. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, I was going from, shipping out of my dining room to a huge warehouse and daily pickups and 90 packages a day going out. So it just grew fast. And I'm a horrible salesperson. I am the worst, because I'll get guys coming in and they've looked at YouTube videos like, okay, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need 8 gallon a minute, I need a hot box, I need an AR-45, I need this, and I've got $2,000. I'm like, okay, well, first of all, you don't need all that to start out. You need to start with the basic equipment, learn the trade, see if you even like it, and then make money and then upgrade. So, I've started a few guys doing that, And my husband's behind me. He's like, what are you doing? You know, the AR-45 is $2,200. You just sold him a 12 volt for 300. What are you doing? I'm like, he's not doing roofs, so he doesn't need an AR-45. You know, so I'm not going to go out there and take your money. You know, I want you to be successful. I want you to be able to pay your bills, feed your family, and then grow with the industry. I probably could make a ton more money at the warehouse. We still haven't made money yet. We're still 2.5 years into business. So all the money is going right back into inventory. So we have it in stock for you guys. But I just think, you know, the knowledge and the training, and even with marketing, you know, people ask, you know, how do you get business? It's different in every area. For the pressure washing side, it's like where we live, hardly anybody lives here full time. There's a lot of second homes, VRBOs, you know, Airbnbs. So for us, you know, every door direct mail, awesome website is what gets our business. And then we have 3 wrap trucks that are, you know, billboards riding around town for the locals. So, you know, it's a great industry. I love being in it. I'm so glad we did do the panhandle, because then I can still be with the contractors without actually being in the field all day, every day. But I get out there, I need a mental wash day, so I get out there and do it.
Yeah, someday you just want to get out there and get to work for the old days.
Definitely. I probably just went rambling from one business to the other, but I'm passionate about this industry. I love it. And I just love helping people grow and learn. So.
Yeah, no, I can definitely tell in the way you speak about this that you love what you do, which is amazing. And I think it's also interesting that you said in regards to like getting equipment, like start off with the cheapest equipment, not necessarily cheapest, but don't spend more than you need to, because you might not even like this type of work. Like this might not even be the right business model for you. And so many guys, I feel like, just get into this business model, save a bunch of money and put everything towards equipment. And then a few years later, you might see it being up for auction, just selling their equipment, or you know, just unnecessarily, like they're breaking it because they don't really know how to use it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will say that you need that higher end equipment to get into this business, but I completely disagree with that. And it sounds like you would say the same. So I guess if someone's just getting to this industry, they kind of want to see if they even like this service in the first place. What would you recommend in terms of like the essentials?
You know, depends on what they have. If they're working out of a minivan and they need, you know, 4-gallon minute on wheels. If they have a trailer, I would start them off with like a 5.5. And the reason I tell them, you know, to do bare minimum on their equipment is because they need to put more money into their marketing, their advertising. You know, I have a bunch of guys coming to me saying, my phone's not ringing. I'm like, nobody knows who you are. You know, nobody knows who you are. You're new. You need to get out there. You need to get a website. You need to get business cards. You need marketing out there. You need to get on social media. You need to get on Nextdoor or whatever you need to do to get your name out there. So, you know, we have a basic 5.5-gallon a minute package, and it's like $4,000. You know, have a cheaper one for a 4-gallon. I mean, that comes with a hose reel, a hose, everything you need to get started. I mean, we can adjust it to a cheaper hose reel, you know, so we can adjust anything to get you started. So when people come in and say, hey, you know, can you help me? I'm like, first of all, what's your budget? And if, oh, I got this much money saved. And I'm like, okay, what do you have for marketing? And they just look at me like, what? I'm like, well, how are you going to use this equipment? And then they're just kind of dumbfounded. Like, I said, how are you going to get your name out there? How are you going to get jobs for this equipment? You put all the money into your equipment. What are you going to do with it? You're going to have your friends and family knocking on your door. Hey, can you do my house? You're still not making money unless you charge them, which most people don't, which I also tell them to use those people for practice. So hopefully your parents won't sue you if you break a window.
Yeah, right.
But no, I mean, I think the pressure washing and the marketing has to be side by side. You can't have one without the other. I mean, unless you're, you know, in the painting industry and you're just adding that on because you've already got the job. You've already got, you know, you have to pressure wash before you paint. I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios, but if a guy just wants to go out and just do pressure washing and make the millions of dollars those YouTube guys are saying you can make, then you're going to have to market yourself. You're going to have to sell yourself. You're going to have to sell your equipment. You're going to have to sell your you know, your technique, your quality of work. You have to sell yourself. Yeah. And a lot of people don't know how to do that. You know, I had one guy pull up, goes, yeah, you know, it's easy. Just roll up, you spray water, and then you leave. And I'm like, no. Then he calls me. He's like, oh, yeah. He's like, hey, I just washed his house and all the gutters changed. I'm like, oh, did you test it? No. Oh, well, I guess it's more than spraying and leaving, isn't it? So yeah, he had to spend 6 grand on gutters. So yeah, that's where the education comes in.
Yeah, that's a good learning lesson. That's a $6,000 learning lesson right there.
I was like, what kind of marketing do you offer? The same thing to social media and all that kind of stuff for the people?
Yeah, so we primarily use Facebook ads, but essentially just social media marketing to help bring in the leads. But our main differentiator right now is the coaching we do, because anyone can provide leads, but to actually know what to do with the leads and convert them into customers, that's a completely different story. So you hear guys jumping from one company to the next, and it didn't work here, it didn't work there, it just doesn't work. It's just not true. Maybe they just didn't provide you with the resources needed to make the most of it. So we learned that over the past 2 years that we've been doing this, and now we really push out the coaching. So we're kind of on top of their sales process with them, making sure they have a good pricing strategy, good sales process. They know how to actually speak with people. You'd be surprised how many people like just have no clue how to speak with. There's no customer service. Like they sound angry or, aggressive almost, like it's ridiculous. But as soon as they have that shift and they're actually starting to level up as a human being, progress as a business owner, everything changes for them. Like even aside from the leads we generate for them, now other parts of their business, what they've learned is carrying over into that. So just like you're saying with the safety, like if they don't know that realm of the business, then they could have a $6,000 mistake like that one guy did. It's the same thing with every aspect of the business. If you're not progressing and learning more and just experiencing it, either through firsthand experience or mentors or coaches, then you're kind of going to be stuck forever. And that's where you see people coming in, buying all this equipment. A few months later, it's like on Facebook Marketplace or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And there are some, when we started pressure washing, we started some of these lead businesses. I won't name people or businesses, but they were an utter failure. They would say, oh, you pay this and we'll send you leads. And yeah, they'd send leads, but they didn't go anywhere. They'd send the same lead to everybody in the area. So, you didn't get anything out of it. And out of this one company, we never got anything out of it. And we ended up canceling and we still had to pay for the rest of the contract, but it was better than getting fake leads all the time. So,
Yeah.
I always tell people, be careful where you go to get these leads. And with the safety thing, I know when pressure washers start out, they're like, oh yeah, this is dirty. And then when you start getting into it, you can't not notice the mildew on everything. Like I watch a movie or a commercial, I'm like, they should have cleaned that awning before they made that commercial. Or I go to a strip mall and I'm looking at the sidewalk, and at this point, when it's that bad, I don't think of it as dirty. I think of it as a safety hazard, because once that gets wet, that's a fall liability right there, because that stuff is slippery. And, I've done subdivisions where, not subdivision, but strip malls. I go in there and I see how nasty it is, and I'll take pictures. And a lot of times there's a lease sign in there for lease, which has a property manager's email and phone number. And what I do is I take a picture of that. I email them, send them pictures with a price on what it'll cost to clean all that. And I just did their job for them. So now that's an unsolicited bid, but they called, we got the job. It was the Best Buy subdivision, strip mall. And, I did that. I took the pictures, I emailed it to them, and I'm like, hey, did you realize your storefront looks like this? And they had no idea. And it was just so moldy where the drains were. It was bubbling slime. It was gross. And they were in Wisconsin or something, not in Florida. So I don't understand how property managers shouldn't be in the same location, but that's how they work. And, I actually sent this unsolicited bid and I got the job. It was horrible because it was night work and it was pouring down with rain. We had a monsoon, but I was getting wet anyway. So, but that, things like that is what I try to tell people to do when they're out there. If you look at something and it's nasty, you can say, oh, it's nasty. But if they have like a for rent sign or for lease sign on it, that property manager's information is right there. So you can get it and call them or email them. Better, pictures speak 1,000 words, and do that. So, when I'm mentoring contractors that are starting out, I point those little things to them. Or, the 5 around. You wash a house in the center house, you go knock on the doors, 1 on each side and the 3 across the road, because those 5 houses look at that property you just washed.
Yeah.
They've seen that dirty roof, they've seen that dirty driveway, they've seen the dirty house. Now you can knock on the door, give them your number, put a face to it, show them your work and say, hey, I just did your neighbor's house. If you ever need anything, give me a call. A lot of times you can nail a job right then, but a lot of contractors are scared to do that. So, I've got my stay humble, hustle hard shirt. And, I came up with that for the pressure washing guys, and I give the shirts away or whatever, because in this industry, as well as others, you have to stay humble. You get arrogant, you get cocky, you're going to lose a lot of business, and you have to hustle. It doesn't matter how long you've been in the business, you have to hustle. So, that's my motto, stay humble, hustle hard, and you'll go far with that. As long as you stick to your beliefs and just stick to that and just go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel a lot of people are scared to knock on doors and reach out to property managers, things like that, because they're scared of, maybe coming off as salesy or just getting that no. But in reality, like, if you don't reach out to them, you could be doing them a disservice. Maybe they had no idea the property looked like that. Like you said, with the property manager, he had no idea what it even looked like. Maybe the homeowner has no idea why, that's an issue, why it's a safety hazard. So if you're doing it with their best interest at heart, genuinely, then they're going to be happy to hear from you. And that shift in mindset should immediately allow you to be confident knocking on doors instead of scared that you might be bothering them or something like that. Because really, you're doing them a disservice by not going out and speaking with them, educating them on why they might need the service.
Also, for health reasons too, you get mildew all over your property that can cause health issues, asthma and allergies, and they have small children. And I had to go wash it was a military base, the children's center. And I walked in there and I could just smell the mildew. I could smell, it was so gross, and it was green, and all the playground equipment. And I'm just looking at it and going, our military children are playing on this stuff. And so we were hired to do the building and the sidewalk around the building. And I just went ahead and I cleaned all the playground equipment for these kids. I was just so appalled that, our military, the guys that are out there for us, their children have to play in this mildew and dirt and grime. And so every time I go do it, we do it every few years. Every time I go out and do that, I just clean all their playground equipment at the same time. I don't charge them for it. It's just something that I feel that I needed to do as a human. And, just, thank our military for everything they do for us. But, just little things like that, when you go to a homeowner's house, and if there's something gross, like I'm cleaning their house, they got a porch and they got, that furniture, plastic furniture or whatever, and it's gross. When I'm washing, I'll just spray that down too. And then I'll just say, hey, while I was in here, I cleaned your furniture. And that gives you a leg up for next year when they need it done. They'll remember the little things you do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I ship out packages, I always put something little in there, something, it might be a keychain, an air freshener, always mints or candy, Easter eggs over Easter, candy canes over, I always do something little, because, you open your package and there's something in there. I get a lot of people telling me their kids or their dogs, if you have dogs and you put dogs on your little sheet there, I give them dog treats or cat treats. And contractors will call me and say, we got the package, and my kids get so excited when they see that panhandle tape on there, because there's something in there for them. And stuff like that just makes me feel good. I just think our contractors deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
Something a little extra for, just their appreciation of what they're doing as well. We are cleaning America. We're hopefully keeping it mildew free and safe from, slip hazards or, the allergies. And, it's pretty much a thankless job if you think of it, but we do more than people give us credit for as contractors.
Yeah.
We're sanitizing things while we're cleaning, so it just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just overboard on my stuff, but
No, I definitely agree with you. And I'm also huge on over delivering.
Mhm.
A lot of people, they want to get paid the absolute most for doing the absolute minimum. But in reality, you should be trying to over deliver, because if they expect to get X amount and then they end up getting, a little bit more than that, even if it's just something slightly larger, like for example, with your orders, a keychain, like it's not something huge, but it's something people will remember and it'll make them happy because they got more than what they paid for.
Mhm.
Same thing with, a project. If you're going out to do a certain job and they couldn't afford, their sidewalk, so that wasn't included, but you just go out and do it anyway, they're gonna be so happy and grateful that they're going to work with you year after year. They're going to refer people to you. I mean, over delivering is huge, especially in this industry when, I mean, it's so easy to do, but most guys just don't do it. And
Yeah.
it's ridiculous because in reality, you can get so much out of it. You can leverage that job to do work with them year after year, get so much more referrals from them. Like it's just a much better experience.
And, I had a staff meeting and we have a mechanic and he always gets, the calls for him and I can't answer the mechanical stuff. So, he's got a job scheduled for 2 days and then he's on the phone, helping customers, and then it's crunch time and he's rushing. And we had a meeting. I said, okay, from now on, if this job takes you 2 days, I want you to tell the customer 3. I still want it done in the 2 days,
Yeah.
but I don't want you rushing toward the end and messing something up or, forgetting to hook up a line or, something. So I said, I would rather you tell them 3 days and call them and tell them it's done early and they're happy than tell them 2 days and say, oh, I'm not quite done. So I would rather you do that. And same thing on big jobs when we have parking. We have 3 big parking garages. It took us 3 days, one in each. We had 3 crews in each parking garage each day. But we told them 5 days because you don't know if your equipment's going to break down. You don't know if one of your guys is going to get sick. And I don't want my guys rushing toward the end and missing stuff or, doing a half-ass job, on it and leaving a mess because they didn't have time to finish. So I always overschedule. And then we can call and say, hey, we got done early. And then you have those 2 days that if there was cars in the parking, in the parking spot or something, you have those 2 days, you can go back and hit those little spots you missed. So, on residential is going to be different than, unless it's a huge house. We've got huge houses that take a couple of days, but always don't overexert yourself and don't try and schedule too much because you don't know what will happen. Weather, if you're doing residential, you can get rainstorms, that you can't wash in it because the chemicals won't stick. You can't wash a roof in a rainstorm. You have no way. You may be able to do a house if it's drizzling, but you can't do a roof. So, always schedule for those kind of things. And that's what I tell my contractors, just, always think ahead. You can, in Florida, I don't know where you're at, but in Florida, we got the most bipolar weather ever. If it's like, 90 degrees, no rain, all of a sudden the skies just turn black. And I'm like, oh, well, that just happened. So, or in the summer, it's always 30% chance of rain because we'll always get that big rainstorm right in the afternoon around 2:00. So, you always have to think ahead and do that. And, I try to, that's why I do my tricks of the trade. I don't know if you've seen those old videos. I do my tricks of the trade just so newer contractors can, see and learn just little things.
Yeah.
That are not a huge thing, but it helps.
Makes a difference. Yeah.
My last one, I just did surface cleaning and I was doing hose management and I was trying to get the hose to mess up, but I've been doing it so long. I'm like, I forgot how to mess it up. So, I show them how to, your hose is over here. So start here and pull your hose with you. Where some guys have it across the thing and they're trying to go and they're constantly moving their hose. Hose management is a time saver. And, little tricks like that is not rocket science, but it's helpful. And another guy was like, he has a swivel right at his gun and then his ball valve on the other side. And I'm like, well, I have mine the other way. And the reason is because when my ball valve's off, I can use it for a handle and I can pull my hose with the ball valve. So I'm not putting all that stress and strain on my gun and my wand, which is, easier to break than your ball valve. Mm-hmm. So, just little things like that save time and things I've learned, over the last 16 plus years that is just, to me, basic, but to other people, they don't know. Yeah. And, I did that video with surface cleaning. I said, when I pre-treat, I use this to brush the debris off the sidewalk, like pine straw or any of that. When I'm doing that, I brush it and everyone's like, man, I never thought of that. They're like blowing it. And I'm like, that's an extra step you don't have to do because you're already pushing it. So just, you're already getting that chemical and using your wand. So just brush that debris off while you're pre-treating, and then that saves you an extra step. Yeah.
So it's little things that we don't even think much about, right. But in reality, like it adds up and over like the years, as long as you're always adding stuff like that, you're probably going to have a completely different process in terms of your fulfillment, and even again other parts of the business from learning these little tips and strategies. But as for what you were saying in regards to over delivering, like saying it's going to take 5 days, best
Yeah.
case scenario coming out of that, like you finish early and they're super happy, you over
Yeah.
deliver. Worst case scenario, you just deliver on time and do exactly what you said you would. So it's a little thing like that that really adds up. And like you said, just a bunch of tricks like that where you can't, if you go out, do your jobs, come home, back to work the next day, like you're not going out networking or learning, watching YouTube videos, trainings, getting mentors or coaches, things like that, then you'll never learn these little tips and strategies. But if you actually put in the work, like you said, like the grind, like you actually work your ass off, then over the years, like you're going to progress like crazy. And then your business is going to grow so much more because of it.
And that's why I do my annual free training events. We had my first event was in 2021, no, 22, sorry, January. And I had like 430 contractors show up. My first event, I was so nervous. I was like, oh my gosh. So I did it again this year. I didn't have as many contractors. There was a couple different free events. One got canceled. So I had people sign up for mine and then they reopened it again. So they didn't show up to mine and then they canceled it again. So I'm like, these contractors just lost free training. So I was a little frustrated. There was some dates left up from last year. So everybody had the dates wrong. Not everybody, but some people had the dates wrong. So that was a little issue that was out of my hands, but
yeah,
I just made the best of it. So I still had over 200 people show up for the free training. And the biggest, we have great speakers, we have great hands-on training. It's not a classroom setting. You go outside and you learn. But the biggest thing is, everyone's like, what's the best thing you get out of this? I said, networking. Because, I can tell you what I do in my area, but if you're in Nebraska, you're in Wisconsin, I don't know your market. I don't know how to wash there. In Florida, you have to wash a house every 6 months to every year because it's so humid and sticky and hot. And we get a rainy summer, we're like, the pressure washer's like, yeah, there we go, more jobs. And then we get this pine pollen and like your car's all yellow and the house is all yellow. And these vacation rentals, they all want you to come in and wash it before spring break. And then by the end of summer, it's moldy again. So, our area is totally different. So at these events, when we get people that come in from up north in Canada and, all over the country, we come in, they all meet each other, they network, they talk about it, and they learn from each other on how to do the marketing in their area, how to price things out. Because people call me, it's like, hey, how do you price this? I'm like, well, this is where we're at, but I don't know where you're at. It's different.
Yeah.
It's a different market everywhere. So the networking is amazing. And, I'm still training new people for the warehouse, but, once I get that going, I want to this is my goal because I love punishing myself. I'm a workaholic, but my goal is to travel to different places, like fly to Oregon and say, hey, I'm going to be in Oregon on these dates. And on Wednesday or Thursday, I'm going to be at this restaurant or this place. And I'm going to a little round table and it's just 20 people, not a huge free event. I just want a round table to have like 20 people so we can just talk.
Yeah.
And just learn from each other. And, that's what I want to do eventually. But I'm like I said, I'm a workaholic. I'm just out there. And then I'm like, hey, I started a new group. And everyone's like, of course you did. Why? I don't know, because I'm glutton for punishment. But I just think the more the education and training's out there, the better it is. Because, you have a contractor that doesn't know what he's doing. And he's hitting stucco with 44,000 psi or 4,400 psi and damaging property. That makes it look bad on all of us. That raises us, all our insurance is going to go up. And I went on a job site one time and I pulled up and he said, hey, he said, let me show you around. I said, okay. He goes, I know you're going to knock some paint off. And I'm just like, what? He said, yeah, the last guy knocked some. I'm like, I don't know who you've got pressure washing, but I don't hit your house with high pressure. I soft wash with my pressure washer. I'm not going to hit your house with anything harder than a garden hose. And he was just so confused. And he's like, but that's a pressure washer. I said, I know. I turned my chemical off and I rinsed with my soap tip. I said, there's no pressure going out of my gun. And he was just looking at me like he had no idea, like I was talking foreign to him. And he just didn't understand how you could soft wash with a pressure washer. And it's like, it's all about the tips. And he just still, they just couldn't. And so I did my job and I showed him, and he was so happy that I didn't knock the paint off his house. So, you got to educate your homeowners as well as yourself. But yeah, the training, I can't tell you enough about. If you have a chance to go to a free training event, that's a little bit different than the paid training events. Every time I've been to like the Huge and the PWNA and the CETA, I went to those. Great content, but it seemed to be more of a vendor show. There were more vendors there, and they're like, hey, do you want a booth? And I'm like, well, if I go there, I'm selling the same stuff as everybody else, and it makes no sense. So we did go to the Huge, and the only thing I took was a little gadgets that we have, the specialty items. I didn't take a whole bunch of lances and guns and DN10s or turbo nozzles. Everybody had that. So I just took the specialty items that nobody else would have, like the M5 Twist Davis shooter combo. Nobody has those. I think they do now, but I was the only one back then that was like in a store selling them. Just little things like that. But the free training event is actually for contractors. The paid ones do have classes and stuff, but being in both as a contractor before I even had the store, being in both types, I learned more from the free training event because the instructors and the trainers volunteer their time. You do, and they want to learn. Between paid and free, you're going to get great content either way. But I think with the free, I learned more from the free just because those guys are like me, passionate and just want to help. And you can see it, they pay their own plane ticket, they pay for their own hotel, they pay for their own food while they're doing this free training. So it's not free for them, but it is free for the contractors. So I don't know how many of the contractors are aware of this, but they're not getting paid at all to do this. They're doing that because they want to help. They want to educate. They want you to learn and grow because they want this industry to grow and keep growing in a positive way.
Yeah. And that's an amazing point, which I never even considered, but it makes a lot of sense. The ones doing the free training are just doing it because they love it and they genuinely want to help people. And like yourself, they just have such a large love for this industry and helping the people in it. The paid ones, I'm sure they generally want to help as well, but they also have that ulterior motive to help grow their business or whatever else it is. So that's a great point. So for anyone, myself included, I definitely need to go to some of these trainings, but any free trainings like that I'm sure are super valuable because a lot of people don't value anything that's free. They assume it's free, that it won't be much of help, but in reality it's probably even better because it's being ran by people that just love what they do and love helping others.
And I went to my first free training event in 2008, 2009. It was in Tampa. And I just sat there and I was just in awe. AC Locklear was teaching. Ron Musgraves was teaching. We had somebody from the EPA out there. And it was just amazing that I was just sitting there like, wow, there's so much more to this industry than what we know, and we learned so much and we brought that home. And we kept going to these events. And then when I opened Panhandle, I'm like, I want to do this. I want to give back. I want to pay it forward because I got this knowledge. I got, this information, and I want to do these events. It's not cheap. The venue that I pay is over $10,000 for the venue just for 2 days. And, that doesn't include the sound. It doesn't include, I'm crazy. Once again, I'm a workaholic. My last event, I fed everybody. I made pasta salad. I made baked beans. We made hamburgers, hot dogs. We had pulled pork. We had beer and soda and water and chips and potato salad. And it was just, I physically made the beans and the pasta salad by myself in my house, so it turned out great. Everybody was fed, but I don't know what everybody's like, I can't wait till next year. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've got this huge event and I'm cooking. Anyway, so no, I don't sleep if you need to ask that. But, I just wanted to pay it forward because I learned so much and the instructors were so knowledgeable and so helpful that I wanted to give it back to the new contractors, and even experienced contractors can learn stuff because things change every day in this industry. Every time I go do a job, I learn something. I learn something new. And if you're not learning, you're not doing your job right. Everything's changing. because of COVID, they couldn't get materials to make the guy with the gutters. He has the same gutters on his house, but because there were supply issues on some materials, they had to, put some other materials in there, and substitute some other materials so it wasn't the same as what his was, but even though they looked the same. So he washes his house and it's fine. So he just went and washed that house. And he called me. I was actually at Huge when he called me and showed me pictures. And I'm just like, always test. He goes, but I have the same one. I said, you don't. It could be a different manufacturer. They, with the supply issues, they could have substituted something. And even with the paint issues, it's not one paint manufacturer. I've seen it in others. One is more prominent than the others because it's the largest paint manufacturer in the country, maybe the world. And people can like paint one side of their house. That's the bad one that got all faded. And so they painted it. So you test one side and it's fine. Then you test the other and it changed. So you're like, I tested it. Like, but you have to taste it. It's horrible. It's horrible. You have to do this and take some time out. But, my company changed 2 houses in 1 month. It would have cost me $77,000 to paint these 2 houses. That would put people out of business. And that, that's why I try to push this issue. And I get calls daily, scared contractors because of the paint. I had one guy call me. He said, oh my gosh, I think I'm having a heart attack. I'm going to have a stroke. I'm going to have a stroke. I'm like, calm down. What is it? What is it? He said, I just washed his house and there's streak lines. I'm like, okay, before you panic, what's the siding? And he said, hardy board. I said, okay, calm down. Hardy board is a cement-based product. It, like with any of the cement, like if you wash the driveway, you'll see patches that dry faster than others because of how it's porous. And I said, have you already washed one? He said, yeah. I said, go back. If it's dry, look. He goes, okay, I did the backside first. So he went and he said, oh my gosh, it's drying straight. It's drying fine. It's even. I'm like, okay, so always test, but hardy board will dry uneven. And it's scary because it looks like it's changed colors, but it hasn't. So, there's little things like that I'm still trying to get out there.
Yeah.
There are some other people out there that's like, hey, it's this paint company's fault because the house changed, but then they wash a roof and the roof strain, 6% runs down on the house and changes the paint. They didn't pre-wet the paint or the body of the house. When you're washing a roof, you need to keep the body of the house wet because that's strong chlorine mix for a roof. So, that's contractor error. There are some contractor errors. Would the paint have changed anyway? It could have, but I wouldn't know if it would have changed with a 1% mix or not. So, there's little things like that you have to be aware of. And that, once again, with the free training helps, so you can keep an eye on and keep, your mind on it and make sure you think of little things before you start washing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, things are always changing. So you always need to keep seeking knowledge.
Yep.
That never stops.
Yeah, exactly.
But that was amazing. I'm sure a lot of people are going to get a lot of value out of this, like a lot of great info here. So if anyone did want to connect with you after today's call, where could they find you?
My email is Trudi, Trudi at ppwsupply.com. And the warehouse is 850-835-4052. And my cell is 850-687-4334. And Nick can hit me up on Messenger on Facebook. I'm always all over there. So I'm not too hard to find.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you for hopping on today. Again, a lot of feedback from you, a lot of great information. So again, really appreciate what you're doing for the industry.